to protecting children's rights and stopping indoctrination in schools across Ireland. And because of her input, the UN have requested that we are represented and that we are speaking to them next week. And that's down to Sandra's dedication. Sandra.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sandra Adams. I have such a temptation to say good afternoon, Dublin. So, you might be aware that today is Countess Markowitz's birthday. She was born on the 4th of February 156 years ago. And last Thursday was Groundhog Day. And those two things, I think, coming together is telling us something. Because here we are again, women marching to not just gain rights, but to try and hold on to the rights that we thought we already had. We're trying to hold on to the right to be named, to be identified as what we are, women, and sometimes we're mothers. And until very recently, that was uncontroversial, recognising women as a distinct sex category. The words woman and mother held an empirical value and meaning. We're fighting to retain those words, and in a perverse twist plot worthy of Succession, there are organisations who claim to advocate for women, advocate for mothers and children, who are happy to comply with Roderick O'Gorman's directive that they prove how progressive they are by gouging out the words woman, mother, female, women from language. You'd be forgiven for thinking that you'd woken up in an Irish version of the Black Mirror, or if you're very unlucky, Toy Story the musical. I think that the NWCI and ministers like Roderick O'Gorman and Aidan O'Riordan, I think they might be reading Karl Marx before they drop off to sleep at night. I think actually a lot of the political parties might be reading Marx before they drop off to sleep at night. Because Marx said that some people believe that by changing the name of something, you actually change the nature of it. But he went on to say that that's not true. Now, I think the politicians are falling asleep before they get to that sentence. Because you don't turn a piece of rock into gold by saying it's a piece of gold. You don't turn a man into a woman by simply stating it. The NWCI and the minister and TDs like Aidan O'Riordan, they think that by erasing language that we need to describe ourselves, that we can somehow escape discrimination, that by being rendered invisible, we'll be safe. They believe that if you remove the words mother and woman from language, when a man walks into a woman's changing room, the women there won't notice because, hey, well, we're all just people now. Well, that's the kindest interpretation I can give it, but I think we all know what the real reason is. Because if you're allowed to keep words like mother and woman and female and girl, you have to acknowledge that those words are linked to sex. And sex is a stubborn mare, and because she won't change, regardless of how much you tell her to. Now, Maya Angelou said that when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And that's the important part of that sentence, believe them the first time. So when an organisation like the NWCI, who we give funding to advocate for women, tells you you're a bigot for withholding your consent to allow men into a woman's space, they are showing you that they despise you. Believe them the first time they say it. When a man walks into a woman's changing room under any pretext, he's showing you he has no regard for your dignity and privacy. Believe him the first time. When a minister pushes relentlessly to erase female language from legislation and the Constitution, he's showing you he despises you. Believe him the first time. You don't have to be kind, you just have to be brave. You have to meet contempt with facts, with questions, sometimes with humour and satire, and you have to meet it head on. I spend a lot of my spare time writing to newspapers and politicians and policymakers about these things. I write submissions, I'll talk to anybody who will listen to me. I have to apologise to friends and family and work colleagues for that. And preparing for today, I thought about, back in the olden days, like in 2019, what would I be doing on a Saturday? And on a Saturday, I used to canvass for political parties because I believe that democracy is the best system that we have for organising society, and that if you are unhappy about something, stop whinging about it, go out and try to change it. And for that reason, I used to go and knock on people's doors and try to explain to them why I thought the world should be organised in a certain way. I used to canvass and campaign for, in no order of importance, the Labour Party, the Social Democrats, and the Greens. As my father would say, I am more to be pitied than laughed at. I feel like I'm the subject of some kind of cosmic joke, because these very people that I was trying to get elected now won't engage with me because they say I am a bigot, because I think words are important and their meaning matters. And I suspect there's many people like me, and maybe you're among them, that you don't know who to vote for because nobody represents you. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Sinn Féin can't wipe their hands of this. They've all participated in letting this referendum happen. And what are we meant to do? Do we just accept disenfranchisement? Do we just stay quiet? I don't think so. I think we're just going to have to stand for election. So I'm going to finish now by talking about integrity. Integrity means that it's a quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. But it also means when something is kept intact or kept whole. And I think a lot of people who are publicly advocating for these changes, they don't just lack integrity, they're not intact. There's something in them that's broken. I had a conversation on my doorstep yesterday with a would-be election candidate from Fianna Fáil. He was actually a lovely fella. And because I've canvassed, I respect the effort it takes to call to someone's door and explain why you think the world should be organised in a certain way. And so I listened to him, and he listened to me, and he listened very attentively when I explained why I was voting no. And he agreed with me that the wording was shoddy. He agreed with me that the definition of durable relationship was nonsense. He was unsure about removing the Article 41.2 as it refers to the value of women's work in the home. And he agreed with me that it was important we recognise that men and women are different without denigrating either or elevating the value of one above the other. And when I said, why couldn't you just have added the words father and man and recognise the value that men have within the home? He agreed with me. He agreed with me. It was funny because when I said to him, so why don't you say these things publicly? He just looked at me like I was mad, because we understand what that would cost them to state it publicly. When I told him that I objected to mixed-sex toilets in my child's school, he agreed. He said his own wife would go ballistic if she was faced with that. He expressed frustration that the GRC allows any man to enter female space, including prisons. And when I asked him why not state it publicly, he didn't answer. He just looked at me like it was obvious. Because to say that publicly takes integrity. And many people who want to represent us no longer have it. What kind of moral compass do politicians have when they will tell you to their face that they know that something is profoundly wrong, but for political greed, they will not say anything? That share of votes. I want that party. I want that party to reflect my values, which are essentially centrist. Remember this. When someone asks you to be kind, ask yourself, if I'm doing this, am I being kind to myself? Am I being kind to my daughter, my mother, my sister? Is it in my interests? We know that in the world ruled by the mantra, be kind, there's only one-way traffic, and it never travels in the direction of women and girls. On March 8th, International Women's Day, vote no and no again, and be kind to yourself.